Hello everyone, this video is a bit of information about when narcissist dates a narcissist, because some of you may be questioning, do they know each other are narcissistic and do they seek narcissistic partners? Are they united together to get others, and how do they act towards each other? When it comes to narcissists, there is lots of different types and words out there for each individual ones on the spectrum. So if you're looking at the lower end of the spectrum and the middle end of the spectrum, most of them don't actually know what they are, so they will not know that the other one is a narcissist. Great narcissistic people do tend to, however, recognise what they are or what they do, although they'll probably never admit it unless they've got something to gain from it. Two narcissists of the same type, so two on the lower, two in the middle, two greater, two somatic, two overt, two covert, can't usually sustain a long-term relationship. Two of a different kind on the spectrum, if you get the right mix, can have a long-term relationship. They will hit it off and they will supply each other with great emotions, which turns into arguments, but they're getting emotions from those arguments, as they'll always be envious of each other. They will at some point more than likely devalue each other, which could last for years. Just like narcissist and an empath, it's an extremely unhealthy dynamic of a relationship. And here's a few examples that I believe. If you get two on the lower end of the spectrum, because they don't know what they are, they might try to seduce each other, but in most cases it will never fully get off the ground, as because they're not empaths, they'll fail early on to fully seduce and mirror, and they'll move on as they're not getting the positive emotions that they need. So most do not have enough instinct to know what the other one is, but they'll know that they're not going to get what they need from them. Sometimes they may not fully know and will end up being in a romantic relationship, quite rare for two on the lower end of the spectrum. Usually, if they've been the ones that have been discarded by an empath and they've no one else to go to, they'll roll with the relationship out of desperation because there isn't a true golden period towards each other. So the relationship will be turbulent and short-lived. They will devalue and discard each other fast. With siblings, they seek to draw attention from each other. They will always try to outdo each other. They'll always demand attention from each other. The lower end narcissist I'm talking about, the victim will want the somatic to help them. The victim will never thank the somatic if they do help them. And then the somatic will mock the victim, so that the next time the victim asks the somatic for help, the somatic will not help, causing criticism to the victim. The victim will lash out at the somatic. They will give each other negative emotions if they rage at each other. They will constantly insult each other and possibly physically fight. They will keep going back and forth for more emotions from each other, and then they may separate, relationship or siblings, they may separate and then come back together. Never truly, if it's a sibling, they'll never truly discard each other. They may not separate for long, and they'll always want to out each other, hurt each other, and at times they'll be united against each other and against others. They criticise everyone. They're drawn to each other as siblings, and they will possibly even try and seduce each other's partners just to get each other. On the middle range of the spectrum, they're more likely to use pity plays and silent treatment than physical violence. So when these two get together, they also don't truly know who they are or what the other is. So they kind of play cat and mouse with each other, a role reversal of who's the cat one day and who's the cat the next day. The middle of the spectrum will be able to manipulate a lesser narcissist easier. The middle of the spectrum will use passive-aggressive behaviour, and those on the lower end of the spectrum will provoke the mid-range, and the mid-range will play victim and the hard done to person. In a romantic relationship, those on the lower end of the scale will aim to seduce those on the middle or greater end of the scale, and the ones on the upper level of the scale will use charm if needed to seduce them. They'll not know what each other is as such. The ones on the middle may notice the lack of empathy traits, and the ones on the lower end cannot fake them well enough to truly seduce a narcissist that's higher up on the scale. With siblings, if you've got, I'll call them a lesser and a mid-range, if you've got a lesser narcissist, they will be jealous of the mid-range and they will try to draw reactions from them. The mid-range will most likely do better for themselves with life, which will criticise the lesser. The lesser will mock the mid-range to gain reactions, things like they're a snob, they've had a hand up in life. The lesser will often verbally attack the mid-range. The mid-range will either give the silent treatment to them or use the pity plays to those around them, to the parents. They will provide each other with emotion. The lesser will try to get the mid-range to stop the silent treatment. The lesser may play victim to those around them again because of the silent treatment and will lash out at the mid-range. Some narcissists do manage long-term relationships with each other. If you had two parents that were narcissists together, please add the information in the comments to help others understand. They often switch roles of good cop, bad cop, where one's being submissive, then eventually they have enough and become aggressive, causing the other one to play victim and become submissive. A lot of role reversal in these kinds of relationships. Some say if you've watched The Wizard of Oz, one is the great wizard of Oz, while the other is behind the curtain pushing the buttons. But again, these roles get reversed. They can gain emotions from each other to fill that in a void, yet it's never a truly happy relationship. They swap the roles between overt and covert narcissists. Two of the upper end narcissists on the scale can potentially become a high power couple, often working together as well as against each other to destroy those around them. When they are together, it's a never-ending power play and competition, like with all narcissists. So again, please, if you have any experience of a narcissist dating a narcissist, please do add in the comments any information for those that are looking to see whether both their parents were narcissists. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.